Hey man, thanks for doing this.
Right.
So I've known you for like tons of years, since my early days back in Bloomberg. I remember at the time when I first met you, I was like really impressed by your credentials, and then I think at some point in time it kind of like veered into the social hemisphere. You was mentioning going diving or something like that, and we didn't actually go diving,
Right.
But I've covered your work through the years,
Uh-huh.
and kept in touch. But if we can just start at the start for us, Chi-Chang, and you're one of the most established financial analysts in town, and continue to be one of the best, in my opinion, up
Right.
until today. Just want to maybe start off with your thoughts on whether financial analysts is still a relevant job today. In fact, how did you get into into the whole research analyst game?
All right. Well, actually, funnily enough, you want to backtrack a bit. Back in school, they always ask you to fill up what jobs you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I actually filled up. Early years was chef.
Are you serious?
Hey, but actually, I do still like cooking, seriously. So I still do a lot of cooking myself. Yeah. But anyway, for me, accounting actually was something I actually enjoyed at school. I found it easy. So I actually had, when people always put down like, engineer, accountant, we just put down those things because that's the standard stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought, accounting is what I wanted to do. So I did accounts, went to university and started doing a degree in accounting.
You had a first or something, right?
Yeah, I had a first in...
Where did you go? Warwick?
At Warwick, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
How
right.
do I remember these facts?
Yeah, I wonder, elephant's memory, this guy.
I did one bit of research on you just now.
Okay.
I saw that you had written about life after the Chevening Scholarship.
Right.
But nothing about your time in Warwick, had nothing about your first. But that's what I remember from those days.
Okay, right.
So how does one fall into basically Chartered Financial Analysts, territory? Well, I guess in those days it's a bit easier, right? Because it was the days of the stock market boom.
Yeah.
1993, biggest time of the year for Malaysian stock punting. But since then, we haven't seen those days. How did you fall into that whole area?
Well, first okay. So I thought I wanted to be an accountant.
Yeah.
So after second year uni, I came back and did an internship at Pricewaterhouse.
Yeah. As you do.
As you do, yeah, that's right. And then I discovered this thing called timesheets. Right? Have you heard of timesheets?
No.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So it's what accounting firms do, right? You got to fill in. So
correct.
You got to count for every single hour that you worked.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That's how accountants do it, right?
Yeah.
To justify the amount of fees that they charge clients.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I worked at KPMG, I know about timesheets. I used to lie through my teeth, but don't tell anybody that, right? So that timesheets.
Yeah, exactly. So okay. But no way I'm going to do this.
Okay, so that put you off like the whole consultancy thing.
The whole audit firm thing,
The whole
essentially.
audit firm thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at that time also, there was a big boom in the US at that time, and there were these stories. The big books at that time were, if you remember, Liar's Poker.
That's right.
Barbarians Michael Milk. Michael Lewis.
Michael Lewis.
Yeah.
Liar's Poker. That's right.
Yeah, and then
Barbarians at the Gate. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And
so that switched you on to share market investing.
So those are all these stories about investment banking and how exciting it was, blah blah blah. So I thought, all right, come back to Malaysia.
Where were you?
My first degree at Warwick.
Okay.
Yeah, so after graduation.
UK at the time.
UK.
Okay.
Yeah, so reading those books. Then came back to Malaysia looking for a job. At that time, they were just called merchant banks.
Yeah, and that was the kind of the thing to join, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I shot off like 6 CVs to the 6 bigger merchant banks.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working for, at that time, DNC Sakura Merchant Bankers.
One of the biggest at the time.
Yeah, and that was part of the Rashid Hussain Group.
Before he spun off into the whole RHB thing, right?
No, he already owned it at that time.
Okay.
The names just hadn't changed.
Okay.
So actually, I joke, I lived through 3 name changes at the place.
Okay.
It was DNC
It was
Sakura.
DNC first, right?
Yeah, then became DCB Sakura.
DCB, that's right.
Then it became RHB Sakura.
So then what happened?
So then what happened was, those were really fun times. I started working in 93, as you know, stock market boom and all that. Yeah. So, every year...
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I had friends who were in the industry, and there was one time, I remember, there was this like stock brokerage going for sale, 200 million bucks.
Okay, wow, yes.
And they were, there was meetings after meetings, they're trying to broker this, and these were brokers trying to broker it.
Okay, right.
The sale of a stock brokerage is crazy.
Yeah.
And this guy was getting quarterly bonuses.
Wow,
That was how good the money was.
Yeah, it was really good in those days. Yeah.
And these quarterly bonuses were huge, like Okay, I won't say how much, but they were huge.
Look, commissions in those days were like 1%,
That's
point,
right.
or 0.75%.
That's right. And I think the weightage of the KLCI at the time was like something like 6 or 7% or something, right?
Or in global
Within
markets.
MSCI.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
I think closer to 8% actually.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was on the corporate finance side doing IPOs, rights issues, and the like, and it was great. But the work just kept flowing in essentially, and you get promoted every year, and bonuses for us in those days, call it maybe between 6 to 9 months, which in those days was considered very, very
It was
good.
all right.
Yeah, I mean,
Bloody hell, man. 6 to 9 months.
Like my friends who went out and
You'll
joined.
never fucking see those bloody bonuses in the media world, man.
And those friends who joined regular corporates, if they got 3 months also, they were happy.
Yeah.
They got 6 to 9 months. But after 2 years, I realized that because you didn't have to do any marketing.
Yeah.
And
Life was easy.
Life was easy, and I felt that if I stayed on for a bit longer, I would be stuck.
Oh, okay. So complacency was in your thing.
In a sense, you could say, I always wanted to be always conscious about adding value and building your own kind of like skill set.
Yeah. So then you went from like basically deal arranging to like front of house, which is in a way like stock market.
And actually, so to a large extent, I'll say it wasn't really deal arranging, to be honest. If we were doing deal arranging, then I might have stayed on.
Yeah.
But very often the deals were actually really hammered out in the back room by the major shareholders themselves.
Okay.
At least
That's pretty
where I
advanced.
was. Yeah. And by the time it came to us, a lot of times we're just doing a bit of touch up and mainly processing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how did you go from there to like broking?
Okay, so looking around then at that time, then this whole industry of securities analysis was coming up in Malaysia. Because what happened was that in the first phase of the stock market boom, really any stories, you just needed a story.
You didn't even need a story. You just said he said, she said, he said,
in a
whatever
way.
they said or whatever, right?
Yeah. So you look at the first wave of very successful analysts. They were essentially all ex-business journalists, business reporters.
That's right.
Because they knew the market and they say, write a story, write a spin, and there you have it.
Yeah.
But the market was then starting to get more sophisticated, and people were starting to ask for things like, some P&L forecasts, cash flow forecasts, balance sheet forecasts, and the like.
That would have been a new thing.
Yep, that's right. So I got in at a time when industry was changing.
Yeah.
And also I got in then because then as an analyst, it helped me bridge the gap. I've never been very good at marketing or selling.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do outright sales, of course.
Yeah.
But as an analyst, you do a lot of research. But ultimately, you have to go out and pitch the research. So that's
You got to sell. That's why they call it sell-side analyst, right? You got to sell the idea.
Yeah.
So, but you stuck with it a damn long time because you started in early 90s. When I met you, it was in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And you still went on for quite a long time.
Yeah, I started in, I think, was it 96?
Yeah.
And I ended in 2008.
It's all right. It's 12 years, long time.
Because I loved it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good, actually. That part of it is interesting. But then to sell the idea is not so, not so appealing to you, I presume.
Oh, no, that was certainly very appealing because from there you learn so many things. One, you learn how to couch an idea.
Yeah. Couch an idea.
Yep, you learn how to pitch it. Or,
That's
learn how to pitch, you find an angle.
And sell the theme to like the whole world, right?
Correct, yeah, that's right. And then the exposure you get is actually phenomenal because, you're always traveling. Well, first of all, your job is to see different corporates, learn new things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So on that one side, you learn a lot of businesses and you actually get very high access, very often CEOs, CFOs, right? So you really get to talk sometimes business strategy. And then also as a good analyst, you also want to really understand the nuts and bolts. So you try and find other contexts.
Well, the best analysts are the ones who know the whole business and how it works, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, Henry Blodgett, I think in the early days, he was renowned for actually going down to the shop floor. If he was covering a retail firm, he'd actually spend weeks and weeks on the shopping floor itself and look at the passers-by, which shops they're going to, which kind of things they'll be buying. That's the best analyst, right?
Yeah,
they
that's
really
right.
get into the whole fabric of the business.
Yeah, that's right, So because the CEO and CFO will tell you one thing.
Yeah, that's
and you
right.
got to figure out, okay, how far.
That's right.
How close
the shop
to the truth
floor
it
is different.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So would you recommend this career to someone who is in his late 20s, mid-20s? Today? Yeah, today.
I think sadly, probably not.
Really?
Times have changed.
Yeah. So why not?
Well, okay, when I was starting out back in 96, hedge funds were still very new. The market was pretty much long-only funds who really genuinely had at least a 1-year horizon, let's put it this way. Yeah. And in fact, they were actually building out their own analyst teams. It used to be, for example, there would just be one fund manager calling the shots based on, whatever was hot story for the week or for the month from the broker. But they're starting to build out their own analyst teams. And putting in more rigor into the investment process.
Yeah.
And so that was really a good time to be in, because then, you had people who genuinely wanted to understand the business and make a call as to, on a 1-2 year time frame, is this going to do well at least? Right now, the market has really shifted to momentum, and everyone is just asking, what's the catalyst? Is it going to move in 3 months?
Yeah.
The whole thinking has moved towards a really, really short term.
So is there no call for like a really good, fundamentally driven, details-oriented, meticulous, old-school analyst like yourself for today? Has that era gone already, you think?
I think the sad part is there isn't a way to make it commercially viable.
Because you guys, you belong to at the time when you were working as analyst, you belonged to a profession that was notoriously fickle. You could lose your job at the drop of a hat, right? Especially if you work for a foreign firm, and you lived an eternal fear that if the market ever turned, you would be the first guys to go out, because that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? Once the orders stop coming in, there is no monetary justification to keep the analysts on the team, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then they will only rehire when the market turns back. So that was like, I guess, the trade-off for the huge salaries you guys used to get.
I mean, that was the trade-off for the justification.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the reality was, in those days, people got laid off, but they got rehired again very fast.
Very quickly, especially if they were good.
Yeah. Because we were very lucky in the sense that if you look at the whole layout, right, the first phase of brokers in Malaysia were the European names like James
Jardine
Keppel.
Flemings.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Soggens. And
Correct.
the
Yes.
so-and-sos.
Yes. But then as they were imploding, the American guys were coming in.
Yeah.
So I think really everyone I knew who got laid off from the European guys all ended up being rehired by the US firms.
So because of now the phenomenon for algorithms and program buying, essentially, right, by the big algo traders, I don't know whether it was you who told me or one of my friends from the kind of like the similar era, saying that he doesn't see any really good analysts today who are active. Was it you who told me?
Might have been me.
That are worth their salt in terms of how they look at stocks and how they value stocks and how they call stocks.
Okay, I need to be more diplomatic, I guess. Don't want to piss off all the analyst friends I have.
Well, you should. I mean, you should call a spade, right? You should call a spade.
No, I think what they're doing is they're responding to market reality. Right? Market reality is really not interested in deep industry knowledge anymore. And if the clients don't want that, then you're also very foolish to be spending time doing that type of thing.
So then how is money being made? Because none of the local houses, or very few of them, as I understand it, have a hedge fund operation. It's all driven out of foreign operations. So where did the local clientele go for good information on the stock,
Local clientele meaning locally based?
Local investors, the mom and pop guys, right? Other than the grapevine, which is obviously dangerous, where would they go for? I mean, if they can't do their own research, then where would they go?
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
And that's the conundrum,
Yeah.
In the end, we need to realize that research costs money to produce.
And good research will require a lot of money to put out.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's why you got a market failure, actually. Very interesting.
Okay, so fast forward to today, right? We're now in January, give or take, right? 10 years since the last financial crisis. I'm pretty sure you're keeping your finger on the pulse, kind of, right? What's your feel?
I think things will get worse before they get better.
That's a typical analyst statement.
Quite typical.
Things will get worse before they get better. We've heard that many times already.
Okay.
How bad?
How bad is anybody's guess, but essentially, that I think anybody who tells you it's going to get this bad is really just pandering to the market, and people want a hard answer. I mean, a solid answer. It's going to be this bad. Market is going to come down another 20%. But what you have to realize really is that the market is dynamic and things continue to flow. And what you need to look at is the facts around you. The facts around you is you have a very unpredictable precedent in the US. It's the world's biggest economy, it's the world's biggest superpower. As long as the behavior is erratic, it's going to be very hard for markets to move up.
So add all the other unpredictabilities like the algorithmic trading. And as I understand it, there's already been a couple of currency flash crashes in the last couple of weeks. It's been crazy. The dollar just went down, just the bottom fell out.
So what you have really is that So it's just all these short-term traders trying to make some money from the noise.
Yeah.
You know, but if you look at it from a purely fundamental perspective, yes, you got ups and downs, up and downs, up and downs. So all these algo traders will try to take advantage of it.
Right.
But if you're just a pure fundamental investor saying, all right, I want to put my money somewhere. But if you look at the whole global, look at this whole situation, what you have now is really a case where news flow is likely to be at best neutral, let's put it this way. And if it's going to be at best neutral, then every time there is, generally speaking, a bit of a shocker or a bit of unexpected news, then the market just keeps trending down.
So in your opinion, what are the top 3 or 4 things to watch out for in 2019? Good and bad.
Top things to watch out for.
Yeah. Like kind of like milestones in the sand that will compel you to either to do more in terms of buying more shares or to take some money off the table. Or I know, and speak personally, I mean, I'm sure you got money in the market still. I don't know how much, but you might want to be putting some of that stuff into like some defensive areas. I know people are saying cash is defensive. People are saying gold is defensive. People are saying, I don't know, REITs are defensive. Speaking personally, what kind of stuff, what kind of things are you watching out for?
If you talk about, say, what's defensive, what's not defensive, I would, me personally, for example, I have money in Maybank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's a perennial defensive, right?
In a way, that's right. Yeah, and gives you a very decent yield now, about 5.5%, 6%.
I was looking at their price to book value. Actually, they're trading at just over one-time book value, 1.4 or something. And that's already a bit higher than just over 1 last year. They're whacked down. It's crazy. I think CIMB is just over one-time book value. RHB is below book value.
Yeah.
It's crazy. AFIN is trading below book value. Arab Malaysian is trading below book value. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. How do you justify those things? Those banks are trading below book value. Traditionally, when you think of below book value, it means that they're on the verge of like bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. So how can that be possible?
Well, actually, push on the backdrops. Okay, how can it be possible would be that, generally speaking, then investors are really not confident in management of those banks.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that at some point in the future, they're going to have to take write-offs. Yeah. That will affect the book value. So some of it might be irrational, if you like, pessimism. But some of it really is, I mean, let's face it, if you look at the banks in Malaysia, or you go along to their briefings, or you look at their slides, there is no real compelling story. Everyone is just saying the same things. Oh, we want to chase the consumer market. You want to do this.
SME business.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the ground,
everybody says that, right? So how much SME business is that to go around?
Correct. And then when you start trying to drill down and, okay, what are they actually doing to get into the business? You don't actually...
No real strategy.
I mean...
They're sharing with you, lah.
They're sharing with me, or, anecdotally talking to friends.
Yeah.
Right now also in terms of at work, dealing with bankers. I don't see any kind of hunger coming from the banks. And, the perennial issue for most of us is that the banks are hugely unresponsive.
Yeah. So how do you explain the fact that public bank trades at, 2.5 times book value? It's crazy. They seem to be making money quarter in, quarter out. Good times and bad. I think on a 12-month basis, I saw, because I have access to the Bloomberg, they're up 25%. The last 12 months is crazy. Everybody is on their knees, and public bank has just gone like there's nothing going on. It's crazy. How do you explain that?
I think what happens at public bank is that they are still more old school bankers.
So relationship?
Yep.
Okay. So that matters?
A lot.
Yeah.
Because what will happen would be that maybe it's reducing now, but what in Malaysia is that, let's face it, there's a very large cash economy. Historically, there's been very high amount of under-declaration by all these SME businesses. Yeah. Right. So most of the so-called corporate banks have moved on to call it credit scoring type policies. Okay. Right? Okay, this company wants some facility. Okay, pull out the annual report. Okay, we're talking about Sdn Bhd, right?
Okay.
Pull out the annual report, get some sense of what is the historicals. But we know for a fact, really, that for many of these companies, there's a fair amount of under-declaration going on. Whereas what will happen at public bank is that the public bank branch manager, I believe, they will go around the neighborhood and look at who who are in the factories, who are in the warehouses. Or I'll give you an example. This was, okay, bear in mind, this is a very old example really from like 8-9 years ago.
Okay.
So I don't know how relevant it is, but so this person I know happens to run a business in a shop lot. He did very well. A lot of business was cash. So of course, he underdeclared his income. Right. Then turned out that he wanted to buy a larger house.
Personally?
Personally, okay. That's right. And of course, his Form J...
doesn't add up, right?
Doesn't add up, that's right. So he went to the usual banks and all of them looked at his Form J and said, no way we're going to give you a loan. Yeah. Then he went to public bank. Public bank said, all right, because public bank is just around the corner, and the guy came around to look at the shop. We spent maybe, walk around every few days, look at the business. Then asked him, okay, show me your last 6 months bank statements. Personal as well as business. So then my friend wanted a loan, so he showed him bank statements. All right, we'll give you a loan, but you have to transfer all your accounts to us.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's very clever.
Yeah.
So that's the differentiator between the public bank and like a Maybank or CIMB?
To me, that is. But that said, I've first upfront to say I'm not a banking analyst. I don't know this in detail, but just anecdotally, from what I can tell, public bank branch managers have a lot more leeway. So
when you analyze a stock, when you look at a stock idea, right, and bear in mind that someone like you is probably like a lot less risk hungry than say someone who's 25 years old. Yeah. You want something which is quite defensive, almost capital guaranteed, some kind of like predictable dividend every year. Presumably, right? Right, because you and I are kind of like similar, right, vintages. Yeah. How would you analyze a stock? How would you, do your stock picking process personally?
Personally, now after a lot of tuition fees.
Yeah, exactly. Because, tuition fee, right?
Tuition fees, yeah, that's right.
Still for me, every day.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, I realized I got no skill at chasing hot ideas. Yeah. So it's really just looking for, again, this old boring businesses that you can understand. Yeah. And then waiting for what you perceive as a reasonable entry point.
So typically banking, right? Because you can see, you understand banking, how banking works, right? Would that be a traditional business for you?
Traditional business, and then also the other part is that in a country like Malaysia or in Asian countries, banks are very, you know that the government will backstop.
Okay.
The largest banks.
Okay.
Banks are crucial to the modern economy.
So there's kind of like a systemic risk element or the avoidance of systemic risk element.
That's right.
So you know that certain large banks, like say Maybank, would be protected in a way, right?
Yeah. Or rather, if Maybank is in trouble, it means the whole Malaysian economy is in trouble and we're all in trouble. That's right. Yeah. If Malaysian economy is okay, Maybank must be okay by definition. There's no way it won't be okay if the Malaysian economy is...
So what other sectors would you look at typically? I mean, manufacturing, furniture, or retail, or...
Well, REITs were good.
Yeah, were good?
They were good.
No longer?
I think not, because I think retail has just been killed by internet shopping.
So the whole idea behind a mall REIT would be kind of like a bit off the mark today?
To me, I'm avoiding them, that's right. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the malls will suffer.
Yeah. So if you were like trying to advise a 31-year-old guy in Malaysia, male or female typically, right? Looking to basically put aside some money for the long term, to get married, maybe to buy a house, maybe have a nest egg in 10, 20 years time. What kind of things would you tell him or her?
I think really the most important really is to get real.
Okay. As in get real about what you expect from the market?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Because those days of like 20, 30, 40, 50% double up, whatever, are gone?
Yeah.
Really?
I think they've gone, that's right. I mean, we had huge tailwinds. Now they look back with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, the last 10 years is huge.
Yeah, tailwinds, by interest rates coming off. Yeah. That and liquidity coming to the system. We had all this kind of expansion going on.
So that's gone.
That's gone. That's right.
Okay, so expectations have to be managed. What else?
So firstly is that don't expect huge returns from the market. Actually, that's the bigger picture, right? If you talk to most people, you say, how much do you expect from an equity investment? What's the range people tell you nowadays? 15% still? Or 10, 15%?
A year? 10 to 15%? No way, man. Forget it.
But isn't that what most people would say they expect? What are they asking nowadays?
I don't know. Actually, I have no idea. Depends on what you buy, right?
No, but generally speaking, okay, invest in equities. How much?
Okay, yeah. So 10-15% would be typically appealing for historically lah.
Right? Yeah, I mean that's what people are. That's right. They would expect.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. At least lah, historically, yeah.
But bear in mind that generally speaking, 10-15% really was the benchmark way back when I was at university in '93. Yeah. At that time, what were US interest rates? I think
God knows.
I think they were, was it 6% for 10-year? Yeah, that's right. It was roughly like 6% 4% for 10-year treasuries, I think.
Yeah.
And then
4%, okay.
Or was it 5%? 4 to 5% usually. Okay, or generally speaking, they would say it would be like 5% was your risk-free rate.
Okay.
Yeah, generally speaking, 5% risk-free rate, 8% market risk premium for developed markets. Okay. So you get a 13% expected return for developed markets. And then for emerging markets, your risk-free rate would be like 6-7% plus another 8% market
so
risk.
So it's about 14-15%.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
But say developed markets, 5% risk-free, 8% equity risk premium to get you 13% as your required return on the market. And that kind of like mid-teens type of return is really stuck in everybody's psyche, generally speaking, in my experience, when they talk about equity investments. I want to make at least 15% per year is what most people will say.
And then 15% every year thereafter.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But you have to look at it realistically. Between then and now, risk rate has compressed. So 13% before used to be 2.5 times the risk-free rate.
That's right.
13%.
The risk-free rate is 4% in those days,
yeah,
right?
that's right. 4 to 5%.
Today the 10-year treasury is what? 2?
2.5%. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so if you go on the same multiple of 2 to 3 times that, you're looking at 6 to 7%.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's realistic.
That's realistic. But you try and market the fund and tell people that, okay, your return is going to be 8%, then no one's going to buy your fund.
Nobody's going to buy your fund.
Unfortunately.
So what you do if you're...
But okay. See how the industry is broken.
So the typical rule of thumb would be 2 to 3 times the risk-free rate. Yeah?
I mean, if you, not say typical, but if you really applied, okay, what we used to learn, and took down, factored in that risk-free rates have fallen, then it should be 2-3%, 2 to 3 times, yeah.
Okay. So what does the 31-year-old guy do then? What does the 31-year-old lass do then? What did she do?
Oh, what did they want to do? Okay.
2019, right? Yeah. Going for the... Because we've just come off the most accommodative 10-year period since at least God knows when, right? Yeah, right? So the next 10 years, what happens? What's the advice?
What's the advice is, it sounds very harsh.
Gosh, really?
It sounds very austere.
Really?
Yeah. But it's really, take a hard look and really figure out, okay, if you take it another step back, what you're asking is, okay, I'm 31 years old, I need to make this big pile of money because I need to buy this house, this car, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, or get married or whatever, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So then now is that, all right, how much is all this going to cost you? So get married is what 20,000 big huge wedding dinner with 100
So say 50,000, right?
Yeah. So
to get married nowadays, I have no idea.
I've got no idea too. But essentially what I'm saying is that, I think sometimes is that we spend all this money and really what's honestly, me personally, I never understood the point of these huge wedding dinners.
Yeah, same.
You go there, okay, the
I know people hate me for saying that, and they'll be like, what the hell, what the fuck is wrong with this guy, man? But I've never been on board with the whole 100-table banquet thing.
Yeah,
ever.
Because first of all, the happy couple doesn't actually get to interact with their guests.
Even Josh is nodding his head.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So, if you really took a hard look at it, hard look at what you really want out of life. Okay, instead of just following the convention, this is what people have always done, is that, hey, it's my wedding. What do I want out of my wedding?
That's right. And the same goes for your for where you put your head down and sleep at night.
Yeah.
You don't need a bungalow. You don't need a huge mortgage. You don't. In certain cases, you don't even need to buy the house. And I really guess this sometimes on air, right? On radio. Malaysia is trying to push home ownership down our throats. Malaysia is trying to push car ownership down our throats, and we've got advertisements for the latest smartphones. We don't need all these things. And we're putting people into debt, deeper and deeper and further into debt. And who's going to bail them out if and when the shit hits the fan, right? If and when interest rates go up, And how many of these mortgages are on variable rates?
Yeah.
Right? Who the fuck is gonna bail these guys out? Nobody. The threshold for bankruptcy in this country is what, 30,000? 35,000 ringgit? Something ridiculous like that. Right? We don't have a social system, social welfare system to help people. We're hanging these guys out to dry. So for the millennial, right? For the 31-year-old guy, expect 6 to 7% return at best from the share market for the next 10 years.
Okay, we call it 7 to 8% share market.
7 to 8%, right? Which is okay. Which is okay. Do they forego material wants? Should they relook their habits? Should they not follow people like us in terms of what we buy? And
sorry, just to put it in perspective as well, right? Even if it's 8% per year return, if you're able to get it consistently, 8 times 9, roughly, well, you double your money in 9 years.
Which is okay.
It's okay, you know. I mean, if you're 31, okay, in 9 years' time, you double your money.
Okay.
In another 9 years' time, you double your money again.
Okay, so buy into things, into business that you understand, whether it's baby diapers or whether it's like clothing brands or whether it's a banking stock. Expect something between 6 and 8% a year. Don't get too ambitious. Don't overspend. Things like that. What else?
It's a formula for a happy life, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. What is a happy life? Because you left your job in the corporate world at a very early age. I remember thinking this guy has sussed that out, man. He's figured out the meaning of life, and then for the last, I don't know how many years, you've had this amazing existence. But hang on, before we talk about your amazing existence, you spent some years in politics, and I saw your Chevening post. And you said that after having lived a high life in the corporate world with the fantastic lunches and the 5-star hotels and the traveling and Edinburgh and this and that, you decided that your time in national service was right. So what was it like when you joined politics? And I know like initially you joined MCA, right? You tried to change it from within. Couldn't do it. What happened?
Oh, actually, I joined MCA way back in around 2002 or 2003 when I came back after the Chevening Scholarship. There was a time when Ong Kating actually was the MCA chairman, and he actually was trying to rejuvenate the party. Yeah, that's right. They actually set up a new branch, because you know the problem with the old parties is that essentially the branches are dominated by the old warlords, and it's very hard to join. And they would, you know. So anyway, what they had done was they had set up a branch aimed at young professionals. So I went in there. And then very quickly what I realized, so, you know, going for the meetings and say, hi, how are you? And, you know, what can we do? And at that time, I would just, you know, go in and see what's see what's going on. And then after that, really what happened was that after, you know, so I didn't go in, I didn't flash credentials or anything. I just like...
So nobody knew who you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
But after they figured out that, oh, okay, at that time I was director of research at Citigroup, and then I had all these paper qualifications, you could tell that they all thought, well, people felt threatened essentially. Okay, what's he really after?
That's an interesting approach.
Yeah, what's he really after? You know, they didn't believe that I had no axe to grind, that I really just wanted country to be governed a little bit better. You know, you got a feeling that, you know, they were afraid that I was out for their positions.
Did you confirm that? Did you talk to someone who basically confirmed your suspicions?
Not say you don't need to talk to people. It's like, you know, then, you know, firstly, they didn't really get many initiatives off the ground. And then when I tried to suggest things, they just got stonewalled. And then you realize that, okay, it's not happening here.
Yeah. So then you went over to the other side and had a look there.
So then that just I just stopped for a long time. And only after I
got a bit disillusioned, did you?
Not so much disillusion, but rather, all right, time is not right, so don't do that.
Yeah.
And actually, in fact, when I quit in 2008, getting into politics wasn't part of the agenda at all.
Yeah. So just rewind a bit. You left the corporate world because you just had enough, and you didn't want to. You wanted a bit of a change because you're exhausted, and the lifestyle was getting ridiculous, and you had enough money. Or what was the reason? Because a lot of people can get addicted to the lifestyle, right?
Oh yeah, they can.
I know people who are still doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Pardon the expression, you know, but they're still pushing 18-hour days, and oh my god, just for the money and the status.
So you got that right. I mean, for me, I was lucky that I genuinely enjoyed the job. at that time. I would say, when I first starting out, probably enjoyed 95% of the time. But somehow always in the back of my mind was, when the enjoyment ratio comes down to like 70%, it's time to call it quits.
Yeah. What drove the ratio down?
The way the market changed, that clients became increasingly...
So it's more short-termism?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So, I guess you could say mainly it's the way the industry changed.
So if you were like an aspiring research analyst today, and you were advising a kid, a younger adult, what to do with his or her life, and you would tell them not to go into research analysim, into the research.
I probably look for something else.
Really, what would you do?
I don't know, to be honest, because I'm not a young person, and sometimes it's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
But if you look at careers, there's always this fads. Like when I was growing up, the big thing to be was chartered account. Be an accountant.
Not to be a CA.
Be a CA, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Then
in my time, it was to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then in fact, for a while, being an engineer was in the doldrums.
That's right.
Then you had the oil and gas boom, and
now it's huge. Well,
yeah, that's right. So sometimes it's really hard to figure out what's going to boom, and I think what's more important really is to figure out. Generally speaking, no matter how good or bad an industry is, there's always room for the guys who are good at it.
Yeah.
So the trick really then is not so much maybe which one is going to be a hot industry, but to find something that you are good at. And then, probably at some phase in your life, that's going to be a hot industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you talk to your kids about this? Or I think your kids are still a bit too young to talk about them, right? To talk to them about this kind of thing. I think yours and my kids are around about the same age, just below 10 years old, give or take, right? Yeah. So, but I visualize myself talking to my kids about their career paths and what they're going to do with them, or let's say at least advising them in time to come. I envision myself doing that. So how do you envision, if at all, advising your kids on future career paths and what to do?
I think
if they were this way inclined.
I think firstly it's not so much advising them on career path, but rather what I'm doing now is laying the groundwork in encouraging them to explore.
Yeah.
And explore, develop skills, and you don't have to decide what you want to do yet. But hopefully after let's put it this way, okay? From 5, I thought I wanted to be an accountant.
Yeah.
And like 3-4 years later, okay, I don't want to be an accountant.
Yeah.
Okay, go in the merchant bank. 3-4 years later, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to become an analyst.
Yeah, things change all the time, right?
Change all the time. So the thing is to, rather give them the kind of like the foundation. Rather, the key is to be always curious, I guess.
Yeah.
And to be always curious in things, and to always be willing to strike a balance between, you want to be comfortable and you want to be happy.
Yeah.
But I think to be really happy, you also always need to be stretching your comfort zone.
So what happens if your kid tells you, hey, Dad, I want to be I want to be a creative genius. I want to be an artist. I'm going to move to Paris, and I'm going to paint people, and I'm going to sit by the side of the river and be a bohemian artist.
Yeah.
And by the way, can you send me 1,000 euros a month for the next 12 months?
Right.
What do you?
Oh no, I think what I say is like this. Thirdly.
What are you going to tell him? Huh?
I tell him there's no free lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, I think what I'll do is like this. Right. There will be a pot of money for them to spend as capital, initial capital. Whether you want to spend it on university.
Okay, so that's your inheritance to them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What's your view towards inheritance? Do you leave them a pot of money? Do you pay for their education? Do you give them the choice between university and a business startup capital? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I think for me it's going to be a choice between university or business startup, because frankly I think universities now are overrated.
Exactly. I'm on board with you on that.
Yeah, so absolutely. Great, yeah. So it's like, okay, essentially I guess the benchmark would be, okay, how much does it cost to have education at a decent university?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe on that way, because that's what my parents gave me. So I think, and I think that to me that's fair, I think.
So whether it's 300 grand, 400 grand, or whatever grand, right? Say it's 300 grand, right? You can choose to go to university, and I'm going to spend 300 grand on you.
Yeah.
Or you don't go to university, I'll give you that 300 grand. Yeah. In my book, it's going to be strings attached. I want you to show me what you're going to do. Yeah. Going to give me a plan. Going to give me milestones, right?
Give me a business plan, essentially.
Give me a bloody business plan, right?
That's right.
And you want to do that. Yeah. That's interesting. Because for someone who went through tertiary education, same as me, right? Things have changed in one generation.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Phenomenal,
Yeah,
right?
that's right, phenomenal.
Okay, so that's a big thing. So how old are your kids again? 12? 10?
No. Okay, the year has just cropped. So 10 and 5 this year.
10 and 5. Okay, so the 10 is nearer to the 18, 19 years old decision. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Not that year, but yeah, time flies before you know it.
Yeah. So I think that in the 8 or 9 years' time, when my kids go to university, things will have changed so much. And I'll be telling them, I'll be willing to tell them, look, if you don't want to go to university, that's okay. But bloody hell, make sure you have a plan to get some food in your stomach.
Yeah,
because
that's
I'm
right.
not going to pay for your existence going forward.
Correct.
And if they want to go traveling, I don't mind either. You know, I'll pay for the bit of traveling. You go around the world or whatever, or spend 6 months in South America. You pay half, I pay half. You bloody well save up for your half, right? Go and work at McDonald's, go and work as a barista or whatever, right? So you do that as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's strange because we are two traditional kind of like Gen X kind of people who went through the traditional route.
We got lucky. We went to traditional route. Got good universities. Good education in the traditional sense. Yeah, but like I said, times have really changed now. So, or rather, what has changed is that in the past, schools and universities were the repositories of knowledge.
Today, no longer because of the internet.
Correct.
Right.
So, in fact, for many subjects, arguably, universities actually are, not say for many subjects, for certain subjects, universities are actually, what's the word for it, behind time.
Yeah.
Because
and the value proposition is totally inverse now, because what you pay for a top university now will put you in debt for a number of years for a value proposition for a piece of paper that comes out and you don't pay it off for the same number of years, and it puts you behind. It puts you behind a peer who's going to be working at the same time as your university, and it'll put you at a huge disadvantage.
I mean, of course, the challenge is, if you get, a similar paying job as a university grad when they actually graduate.
Yeah.
But the difference really is that, like I said, let's say for things like software and, let's say the way you work in a university would be that curriculums, of course, will have to go through a process, right? And because they have to go through a process, they are always going to be behind. Because this is what's happening.
You can't just
change it overnight, and that's also a good thing, because it's where a strength becomes a weakness as well. Yeah. Because part of what you have is you've got rigor. You don't just jump in after the latest.
So there's a bit of a thought process and some bureaucally behind it, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. But unfortunately, for some sectors, that actually means that you're behind time.
That's right.
Because really, I think a university would be perhaps 2-3 years behind. Any university IT course or university programming course would be easily 2 years behind time, at least what's happening at the cutting edge. Because, this is cutting edge today. Then the committee needs to get together to decide what are we going to put in. That's right. Ding dong, get it approved.
Yeah. And today, going back to what you're saying about how the universities used to be repositories of information, now I can get the most amazing philosophies and thinking and strategies and ideas behind all kinds of ideas, and people are from INSEAD to Berkeley to Stanford, individual lecturers, individual philosophers, individual strategists and thinkers. They're putting everything online, their writings, their thinking, their essays. It's incredible. It is completely incredible, but at the same time, it's got to be shaped, because if you don't shape it, you're going to be spending the rest of your life just contemplating your navel and just in this sea of information. But I want to go back to, if possible, your time in politics, right, and Malaysia, because we've just come off the most amazing year. First change of government is 61 years. You spend your time inside the opposition. What was it like?
Well, the first part was, like I said, when I first quit in 2008, politics wasn't really in the works at all, actually. I was just going to spend time on family and community being my residents association.
Yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah, but what happened was that...
That's quite cool and quaint, and, it's very domesticated.
Yeah, that's right. But what happened was that I had met Tony Phua when I was at Citi.
Yeah.
And then Tony Phua was recently elected for the first time in 2008. So he was at that time economic advisor to Wan Ning, and he was given out that position because he was MP. So Tony heard I had quit, and then he got his claws into me and said, "Hey, look, come and help." And then he said that the position is voluntary, so you can do as
So no salary lah.
no salary, yeah. So you can do as much as you want or as little as you want and see how it goes. So I thought, the title was very big. It was Economic Advisor to DAP Secretary General.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, which is actually Guan Eng, who was
Yeah.
Chief Minister of Penang.
So you're reporting directly to him.
Yeah, that's right. I thought, okay, like no risk to me, just get on. And that was when there's this big refreshing change, because after the MCA experience, I thought that there'll be a lot of...
It can't be as bad as that, right?
But I wouldn't blame people for being guarded as well, right? Like, who's this guy coming in and suddenly becoming...
Yeah, they haven't done it, paid the dues.
Yeah,
and then
right.
who the fuck is this guy,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. But you can see how the culture is so different that, when I went in, really the reception I got was, thanks for coming on board and helping us.
Okay. At
Really?
DAP?
At DAP.
Okay.
And
Because they didn't all hands on.
No, but bear in mind that at that point they had won the government for the first time in, against all odds. No one expected
So this
them.
is at the time 2008 in Penang?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you're talking about the state government.
Well, they had one state government. Pakatan had won like 4 governments. It's like the first, if you like, the first taste of victory, right? Okay. And then I wouldn't
There's a
blame
bit
them
of
for saying...
incredulity at the time as well. They're
Sorry?
like, they couldn't believe their luck in a
that's
way, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I wouldn't blame them for then thinking, okay, now we got won something here. Some guys wanting to jump in to enjoy the spoils of war.
Okay.
But there was never that type of, yeah.
So what was it like? Are people justified in thinking that it's a very Chinese party and it's very like one-dimensional in its thinking?
Actually, I think that's just the part that their media relations is just so appalling. Yeah. That yes, true, the party is mainly Chinese, but the fact is that the leaders are really truly Malaysian in the sense that they are multilingual.
Okay. Well, I know Guan Eng is because he's Malay is pretty darn good.
Actually,
right?
all of them are. Guan Eng, Kian Ming, Chin Tong, they're all fluent in Malay because the what do you call it, the State Assembly.
But isn't it true that if you had a party made up, majoritarily speaking, of one race, then the thinking will reflect that of the one race. It won't reflect, and you can say the same thing about UMNO, right? UMNO is predominantly Malay, and the thinking is also predominantly Malay, right? Because you just made up of wholly one culture and one race. You could say the same thing about DAP as well, even though they don't outwardly profess to have that thinking.
Yeah. No, but when you say thinking of one race now, okay, this is a very interesting concept. So are we falling to the stereotypes here now?
I don't know.
Because you're Chinese, so you think this way. Because you're Malay, so you think that way.
At the end of the day, whether or not you covertly exercise that culture or overtly exercise that culture, it is always going to be there, right?
But therefore, so what is the Chinese thinking to you? Just curious.
The Chinese thinking would be based on industry, right? You want to work hard. There'll be a certain amount of conscientiousness about your ability. You'd want to have a certain emphasis on maybe mathematics and engineering and science maybe. You would want to push your children towards education, at least. Certainly Mandarin and at least English, and then Bahasa in that potentially in that order or interchangeably 2 and 3. You would also want to be pushing your kids to traditional industries and professions, whether it's medicine or law or engineering or accountancy. I mean, typically, those kind of things, right?
Fair point. So let's say education, right? Okay, typical Chinese only interested in education. True. But then, did you know in Chinese schools now, I think on average Malays are like 15% of the...
in Chinese schools?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually arguably Chinese schools are actually more multi-ethnic than some government schools nowadays.
Well, my kids got a Kuan Cheng, and I can confirm that there's quite a lot of races in the school, but still predominantly Chinese.
Okay, still predominantly. But what I'm saying is that if you talk about say thinking along so-called racial lines, again, perhaps fair enough to say, right, that generally speaking, if you're from this ethnic group, perhaps 60% will think that way. But certainly, I would say nowhere close to even 80%. Just because you're, in terms of say this generic type of Chinese thinking. Okay, if a Chinese, probably about 60% of the population may think that way, but it's going to be another 40% who think quite differently.
So what does DAP want for the country? Now that I think they would be the second largest component party in the coalition, right? PKR is the biggest. I don't know how many they got now. I don't know. I don't really follow politics, right? What in your opinion is what DAP wants in this country?
Okay, I can't speak for DAP anymore because I'm not in DAP anymore. I stopped all that 2015. So I gave up the frontline in 2015. But generally speaking, why I joined the DAP was that generally speaking, if you talk about, say, policies and politics, they're what you call center-left in mature democracies.
Okay.
In that they believe in industry, typical Chinese believe in industry and the like. But they also believe there's a role for government.
Okay. A strong top-down government.
Well, maybe not so much a strong. Again, this is where different people will have different. Okay, let's put it this way: if you have another, the really extreme Chinese example would be, I'm just interested in business. I don't care about anything else. I just want to make money. And if you want to look at it one way, that's like the, if you like, right-wing American, libertarian free markets all the way, no government whatsoever. Government just interferes, right? So DAP on the whole, I would say the thinking is that because many of them came from families who are small traders, I would say a lot of the leaders, very middle class, many of them were businessmen, and they have seen how government policies actually can affect you, for better or for worse. So yes, you want to work hard. No one owes me a living, but you also realize that you need to have government to help bring up others in society, if you like, or to provide channels where sometimes some channels may not exist. So I would say that in my experience, generally speaking, trying to shape the DAP, they are more center-left in terms of that approach.
Okay, so still quite lenient towards the central government, still quite lenient towards policies and policy makers that are advantageous to business, and to set aside certain incentives for business to thrive.
To thrive, that's right. And then also, of course, education for all, that type of thing, basic education. Yeah.
So what's your feel about Malaysia Baru in this 2019? We've had about 6-7 months now of the new government.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think partly because I've been inside, I never had high hopes, so to speak. Because I think most Malaysians also don't understand reality, in that they complain about Pakatan bickering.
Yeah. Are they bickering? Is this power struggle that's going on?
Okay. One person's bickering is another person's, healthy exchange of ideas or discussions.
Exactly.
I think what we have had is, in the past, we had this facade of, in BN, this facade of unity. There was no bickering within BN, but now we know
it's because everybody was kind of just playing subservient, a lapdog, to the big dog.
Correct. If you actually had a proper coalition,
you would have this bickering, you would have this discussion, you would have this debate.
I mean, correct. Like, you agree with your wife and everything.
Yeah.
Right. And if you look at, say, Australia, for example, how many prime ministers is it in the last 5 years?
6 or 7 or something.
There you go.
So that's a healthy democracy.
To me, it's healthy that these things are coming out, that people realize that there are differences of opinion.
So that's a different take on things.
Yeah. And in fact...
And that's good. Yeah. And that's good, because we should question whether or not Anwar Ibrahim is the right person to be the Prime Minister in 1.5 years, right? Yeah. We should be asking this question. We should be asking whether Azmin Ali is the better guy, all things being equal, etc., 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 etc. And we should be having this discussion about whether or not the cabinet ministers are good and fit for purpose for the job, and whether or not some of them are doing what is expected and whether some of them are not, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
So 2019, what's in store on the political front? Because there's this school of thought that this instability is not good, because there's a lot of things which are happening outside the country, which is obviously unsettling for a lot of people who are doing business. And if we've got this political instability at home and so on, it's not going to be good.
Actually, okay, this is really a left field here. When you say instability, what do you mean by instability?
Well, the fact that the coalition seems to be having this power struggle. Okay. As you say, some people say it's good debate,
so
some people say
so they're having their power struggle. So what's going to be worse? What happens then? Do you really think they're going to break up?
No way. They've got a 4-year mandate at least, right? 4 or 5 year mandate.
So you still have some semblance of government in place, don't you?
Some semblance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's a really left field one, right? We look on Thailand, for example, as okay. Look, it's got no democracy. Okay, they've had so many coups. They've had,
That's another one. That's another one which has had a huge upheaval the last few years, and they've still been able to make it happen, right? The economy still moves on.
Correct. And if you look at that, Thailand has more really globally competitive companies than Malaysia. Like, do you know the world's largest producer of canned tuna is Thai?
CP.
Yeah. I think is John West even owned by them now? I just remember being really surprised that I bought this can of tuna in the market in a very very like old Western brand. Right?
Yeah.
Then you look at it.
John West, that's right.
It's actually owned by
The Thais.
the Thais. So without
at one point in time,
rich,
the Thais used to own Manchester City, and Manchester City is the best football
Right, there
team
you
in
go.
the country, right?
There
In
you
the
go.
UK, right?
Yeah. So actually, what you would argue so from that perspective, right? Here's a really left field argument, right? That what held Malaysia back was actually our government was too strong. Too strong in the sense that they had all these Malaysia plans, and they had all these agendas, and money to fund these agendas to fund inefficient companies, and they crowded out real private sector investment. In Thailand, you had a government that was good enough to get the country together, but the private sector was pretty much left to fend for itself. Really, there's no Thai. Well, we have a 10 Malaysia plan, however, there's no such thing in Thailand as far as I know. We don't have any like big agencies or big initiatives, but they find their way.
Speaking of agencies, you spent some time in Pemandu, right? Or rather, you worked with Pemandu, right?
You mean work against Pemandu?
Yeah, you've got some pretty strong views on Pemandu.
Yeah.
Pray tell.
I mean, to me, that was a classic of big government sticking its nose into things which they had no business doing.
Some examples?
Well, okay, the whole thing for a start, for example, the very first thing was they made a big thing about we got this NKEAs, or National Key Economic Areas, and what we're going to do is that we have these labs where we invite all these top industry players in, and then from these labs we were going to highlight certain projects which become our EPPs, entry point projects, right? So, and the whole idea is to transform the economy, right? Now, you take it back one step. When you hold labs like this, who's going to come? Who are you going to invite? You're going to invite the big players.
Yeah.
Or put it another way, for example, right? Let's say if you take a neutral example, take the US, say around the late, when were they really afraid of the Japanese? When the US economy was in the doldrums?
Oh, the 80s, right? At
80s
least
or
the
90s.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
And then after that, okay, so they get eaten up by the Japanese, the 80s, worry about our economy shrinking, blah, blah, blah.
And then you had Die Hard with the Nakamichi Center.
Oh, yeah. Okay, okay, yeah, that's right, yes.
And then they bought the Rockefeller Center. And
That's right. So maybe at this point in time, some US president says, oh, right, we are in really serious trouble. We need to reinvent the economy.
Yeah.
And IT is starting to take off.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to develop the IT sector. To do that, we need a lab. Okay. And if at that time when you do a lab, who's going to be there? It's going to be IBM, Motorola, Microsoft, right? HP, Hewlett-Packard perhaps, right? But because that's a sensible thing to do in your government, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, you
to invite the big guys.
Yeah, because and actually that's what you have to do. And actually, it's not also a fault-finding exercise because if you're a government, you have to deal with the credible players.
You can't invite the startups. No
Correct.
way. Yeah.
Exactly. But the big things that really transformed the US were Apple. And bear in mind, at that point in time, Steve Jobs was out in the wilderness, kicked out of his own founding company.
That's right.
Yep. Google was like a startup. If any government bureaucrat had invited Mark Zuckerberg to a lab, what would people have said?
What is wrong with you?
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Who is this young guy in a hoodie?
Yeah.
And
doesn't even have a degree.
slippers, yeah.
Exactly.
Drop out.
Yeah. So this whole thing about government identifying winners was just completely ridiculous.
And yet they still exist to this day. Pemandu.
Today? I thought they've been
Well, they've been privatized in a way,
Privatized.
but they still do a lot of government work.
All right. I mean, foundations. Well, okay, but bear in mind, okay, fair enough. Those are my biases, if you like. But what happened was that, ironically, when Idris Jalal first went in, I felt he was a good thing. He was, professional in there, refreshing. And then at that point also was that the criticisms of Pemandu were that they were expensive. But to my mind, those were very misplaced criticisms or unfair criticisms because, hey, look, I come from an investment banking background, right? And how we justify high salaries is, hey, look, I cost this much by running this amount of business. So actually, when Kian-Ming and I first started this thing, it was that, look.
This thing meaning?
This whole evaluation of Pemandu.
Okay.
Because at that point.
And he's been another vocal critic of Pemandu.
Actually, we started it together.
Yeah.
Because, Idris Jalal came in, they set up Pemandu, they came out with their big roadmap thing. And then really at that point, the opposition criticisms really were just harping on about how expensive they were. Yeah. And for me, another pet peeve of mine is that Malaysians don't value professionals.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And to my mind, it was, hey, even if Pemandu cost, say, 1 billion ringgit in total, let's say, for example, if they had delivered on the 300 billion or 400 billion of added value.
Okay, it's worth the money.
Yeah, to me, it's, you don't look at a dollar value of the absolute quantum, you look at what return you get from the quantum.
Yeah.
So we started from that basis actually, right? And Pemandu in the early days was actually very good. They came out with these big reports. And so Kevin and I sat down and said, hey, let's do this, called agnostically, right? They're putting out these numbers here and all this data. Let's track them. And if they do deliver, this is great. Everyone gets richer, everyone is happier, and we pay them whatever they, whatever cut they want to take. A fair cut is more than fair, coming from a broking background. Kian-Ming and I, we actually approached this from a very analytical standpoint. Let's be fair to Pemandu. They say they want to do these things, and let's track them on this. And really, as Malaysians, we hope they deliver. But the really sad part was, so that is very big roadmap book, right? The instant we started really once we started looking into the numbers or their plans, we found that they didn't add up really. Even numbers didn't add up seriously. And we were hugely disappointed. And really perhaps that was the mistake that we made.
How could that have been a mistake?
No, the mistake that we made was that we were hugely disappointed. So the tone of our very first report was very aggressive.
I see.
And that put them on the defensive straight away. With hindsight...
it could have been a bit more collegial in a way.
Yeah, that's right. If hindsight and with age, at that time, look, I was still only, in my 30s?
Yeah,
30s.
Yeah, so guns blazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And how can you do this with taxpayer money?
Exactly, yeah. That was the kind of thinking coming true. So it really showed in the first few reports that we put out. Yeah. Now that after rereading them a few years later, now I understand why they were so defensive.
Yeah, but I think sometimes people forget that Malaysia is only 60 plus years old. We've only just become our own country since the late 50s, 1957. We've come a long way. Yeah. And sometimes I think we lose sight of the fact that we are a very young country. I mean, I went to Australia to study, and in the 80s, Australia was only a 200-year-old, or less than that, right? And people were calling Australia a relatively young nation. And they had a couple hundred years under them. We're 60 plus years. And I think, I don't know, I know you sound a bit incredulous, but I know we've got a long way to go, but 60 plus years, we've achieved quite a lot. Don't you think?
Sadly, no, actually.
Yeah? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, well, from your perspective, you've achieved quite a lot. What have you achieved, actually?
What do you want Malaysia to be?
All right, I guess if you say achieved quite a lot...
relative wealth, yes.
No, actually, okay, in a way, it depends on where you're looking from. I think you and I are very lucky, or rather, I think I'm really hugely fortunate that I graduated at a time when Malaysia was really booming. Like I said, bonuses were good, pay was good, and it's just fantastic exposure. At the time, as I said, Malaysia was 8% of the
KLC, MSCI, right?
MSCI
the global weightage. Yeah.
It was the market everyone wanted to know about.
That's right.
That we actually had with New York, it was conference calls every day. We used to hate it because 8 p.m. at night, conference calls in New York. But the exposure you got was just
looking back on it at the time, wow, what an experience, right?
Yeah, it was experience.
Because they wanted to know Wall Street, wanted to know about Malaysia.
Yeah, that's right. So people like me, yes, in that sense, we had that really, really, really good. We achieved a lot. We got educated. We got foreign universities. We had all this. We got our house. We got our car paid for. Blah blah blah. And then we had KLIA, which was at the time amazing.
Yeah. The North-South Highway, amazing.
Amazing. That's right.
Halimsa notwithstanding, Renung notwithstanding.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It costs a lot, but it's fair.
But kind of worth it, right?
Kind of worth it in the end, you could say. But what I'm saying then is actually really since after 1998, things haven't changed very much in that sense. Or rather after the first Asian crisis for us.
What about the fact that Malaysians generally are wealthier, healthier, living longer, much more aware of the world around us than even the typical American or the typical Brit, much more engaged with the rest of the world, I guess, and living in this internet era, which is amazing in terms of opportunities and in terms of starting new businesses. I mean, there is no other period in I think personally in the last 50 years when it has been so fertile for ideas and for entrepreneurs to come out and start their own businesses. Young people all over the place are like, I think wisely, forgoing the corporate world to start their own businesses. And you can find a new business on social media. It's incredible.
But let me ask you, how are these young people funding their businesses?
People like us who are funding energy and funding ideas and funding youth and vigor.
Is it people
like us in our age? Don't you think so? Because the amount of startup capital out there now is amazing.
It is, but my sense also is that a lot of these are mom and pop funding.
Okay, parental funding.
Yeah, that's right. They are fortunate enough to be born into very high net worth families.
You seeing that?
That's again, all this is just perception, right? So, like if you look at, say, elsewhere, for example, let's say for an ordinary Malaysian middle class family, grow up, did all the things.
No such opportunity.
Correct. And then he goes and gets a regular job. And how much is a regular job paying him nowadays as a fresh grad?
Not a lot.
I think maybe 2-5-3K. So actually that's the other thing that really struck home recently, that when I first graduated, Singapore was actually an expensive country. That if you're a fresh grad, even after exchange and all that, right? If you're a fresh grad, you actually did pretty well in Malaysia. My starting pay was at that point about 1,700 ringgit. And
Which bank was this?
RHB, the DNC Sakura Merchant Bankers. 1,700 ringgit. Yeah.
So
okay, break. Top up?
Yeah, top up.
Yeah, so we're talking about Malaysia and Singapore, and if you talk about development, right? So when I first graduated, starting pay was 1,700. And I still remember my first paycheck. I took my grandma and parents to Shangri-La for buffet lunch.
Wow. Okay, I didn't do that for my parents.
All right. And I still remember the cost. It was like 43 plus. Which
You're kidding?
Something like that.
Shangri-La?
Yeah.
No way.
Serious.
Okay.
And it was like, so it came out to like 50 ringgit net, like lunch for 50 ringgit net per, So, let's say, you're a fresh grad staying with your parents, you can still afford that. So, now you're a fresh grad, I think starting pay maybe is like 2.5. I don't know.
Not a great deal higher.
Not a great deal higher, but how much is a buffet in Shang now? I think it's like 200 plus. 200 net.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
No way you're gonna be able to afford that. Yeah. Whereas, let's say if you're in Singapore, starting pay is probably around say 2,000 perhaps. But a decent meal costs you a lot less, like maybe like 20 sing, 30 sing.
So what would be the advice, kind of like, what would be the message to, because what you are proposing or what you're suggesting now is that it's a lot bleaker today than, in the 80s or the 90s. I personally think I take on board what you just said and about the cost of living and inflation and all that. But these guys are growing up in an era where the internet is booming, it's opening up all kinds of opportunities. And there's never been a better time, in my opinion, and I'm quite a bit of a cynical, pessimistic journalist, kind of mother crusher, right? But I also think that there's no other better time to be a young person than now. The opportunities for international travel is there. It's abundant. It's acceptable. You know, your access to venture funding is perennially there, whether it's through friends and family or people that you know. 2-3 phone calls of separation. The ideas that you can get funded, the kind of new opportunities in computer science, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data, social media is all there and it's abundant. And there's an explosion of entrepreneurs in the country and in the Klang Valley. It's amazing. It's amazing. The last time I saw this explosion of ideas was in the late 90s, early 2000s. .com 2, okay? Right? Or .com 1, right? And my own company flamed out in those days. But yeah, you know, it's amazing. I think it's great. So what would be the message to entrepreneurs or to young people that are trying to make it in the next 10 years? And the next 10 years can be really challenging. You know, what would you say to them? How would you help prepare them for the next 10 years?
I think it's always to, you know, figure out what you're good at and to always be curious. What you're good at, how you can do it better, and how you can connect it to something else. And that's the value proposition.
How important are soft skills?
Certainly to me, that's possibly the most important actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean...
Because you don't learn that at university.
Correct. And you and I, well, you've done media and I've done sell side and you really know bullshit sells, right?
Yeah, bullshit sells and bullshit, yeah.
You know, it's like you got one credible person who knows a lot but can't speak very well. Another person who maybe knows like 1/4 of that but can just talk.
Yeah. Yeah, talk socks off Eskimo, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then it's
you know, in my time in the corporate world, I've seen you guys in the banks, right? And some of the most technically adept guys continue to slave away in middle management and, you know, never really get promoted. And then the top guys including people like Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan, right? He's not technically the most proficient guy, but bloody hell can the guy talk? Can he sell an idea or what, right? And I see guys in top positions at the banks, they can basically, they know which way is up in terms of influencing their bosses, in terms of getting their underlings to work for them, in terms of getting friends. I'm not going to name the bank CEO that is probably the best fit for that description right now, but he would say that he is one of the best networkers in the country in terms of, you know, getting people to be on his side. Very impressive skill to have, but you don't learn that in university. You learn all the nuts and bolts, you learn all the hard skills, but to have strong interpersonal skills is very difficult.
But you can't say that, you know, you say you don't learn that in university. So that's a very interesting digression. What do you expect to learn?
You don't learn that in a classroom setting necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
But if you're abroad and if you're like say the UK and you went over with a Malaysian contingent, if you don't interface with the rest of the student body, then you will be doing yourself a gross disjustice. And I know a lot of Malaysians who went abroad and they never ever hung out with non-Malaysian people.
They just set up their own new village and their own kampong. You know, the Chinese crowd will hang out themselves, then the Malay crowd there.
Absolutely, the Malaysian crowd and then the Malay crowd, the Chinese guys, right? The Honkies will do the same thing, right? The Israelis will do the same thing, right? The Scottish will do the same thing, etc., etc. But yeah, you don't learn that in a formal way. So for the young person, interpersonal skills.
But you don't learn it in a formal. You don't learn it in a formal way. But I mean, that was what university was supposed to have been about, I think.
That for me is the one reason why I would send my kids to university. I don't believe in what they're paying.
But having said
I don't believe that what I'm paying in terms of their education
yeah.
is worth what they're going to get paid when they come out, or the debt they're going to be taking to fund that education. But that the experience abroad, or flying abroad, or living on your own, or fending for yourself by interfacing with other nationalities and culture is worth the money.
No, but hey, but do you need to do it that way?
Yes, correct. That's why I agree with you, right? That's why earlier we agreed upon. If there's an option for my children to say, hey, if I don't pay for your schooling or your university, I give you the option. You can travel for 6 months in South America. I'll pay half, you pay the other half. You go and work for half.
Yeah, because for example, you know, just was it today's newspaper? I was just reading about Teh Chi Foundation in doing work in Turkey, Istanbul.
The which foundation?
I don't know how to pronounce it properly. The Taiwanese one, TZUCHI, Suchi.
Okay.
They're a very big organization nowadays, actually.
Okay.
So they're actually running, so they're Buddhist based, but quite incredible is that they're running a very big medical center in Turkey for Syrian refugees. And, you know, if you talk about soft skills and the like, instead of going to a university whereby universities nowadays also, because they are forced to spend so much more effort on teaching and, you know, the whole values chain has changed. You know, but if you talk about soft skills learning to work, I would say spending like 4 to 6 months at a place like this.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So if you're like a young person just setting on the world, and you put up your name to go and work in Turkey in a medical hospital, what an amazing experience that would be. But even in those days, you had those experiences. You had those kind of projects that were available. It's just that we didn't, as Asians, feel that we could apply for those things because we were too busy getting degrees in universities, studying law.
Yeah.
If you told your parents, "Hey, I want to go and volunteer in, Médecins Sans Frontières in Africa," they say, "Hey, Luciawa, right? You're crazy. I'm going to spend 6 months there. What are you going to do? You're going to get a degree, right?
Yeah.
The sooner you finish your degree, the sooner you can come out and get a job and earn a salary."
That's right.
Yeah, but I think times are changing. Times are certainly changing. So, what's next for you?
What's next for me? Running my stretch therapy center. Learning Tai Chi. Okay. That's all good. You don't believe that I can learn Tai Chi?
Yeah, so how do you end up in stretch therapy?
Oh, purely by really luck, really, or good fortune, you say.
Yeah.
Actually, it was my wife who got started. My wife actually used to be a chartered accountant. She quit corporate way before me. She was teaching yoga, and one of her stretch therapy, the founder is Australian, but we are very lucky in that at one point in his life, he was spending time teaching at retreats at the SBS, which is a monastery in Taiping.
Okay.
So one of my wife's...
It's a Buddhist monastery, is it?
Buddhist monastery,
okay.
Yeah. So at meditation retreats, you go there and teach what you call mindful stretching. So anyway, so happened one of my wife's students had gone for the retreat and said this guy was fantastic. And he was really so fantastic because... Australian guy, yeah. His name is Kit Laughlin. And apparently it was so fantastic that the head monk came down to have a look. And then said, "Hey, it's actually quite interesting. Would you teach this to my monks?" And Kit said, "Well, all right. All I ask is you pay for my airfare." So what they then did was that to pay for his airfare, so they organized a workshop 6 months later, and to pay for his airfare and expenses, they opened up the workshop to outsiders. So here was the hall, monks in one side and outsiders on the other side. And my wife said,
and then this Masali guy,
Masali guy teaching monks and lay people how to stretch, so to speak. And then my wife came back and said it was really good. So I went to check out the website, and he had a website, and I found, hey, it's quite interesting too. So next year he was back, and I went for it, and I found that he just calls it stretch therapy, but really to my mind, he was the best teacher of moving meditation ever.
So how does it work? What's the principle behind it?
The principle behind it is really developing awareness of your own body. That in terms of stretching technique, he's technically... all right. Have you ever gone for martial arts classes?
No, not formal.
Not formal, but okay, if you go for any kind of stretching, like say taekwondo class or whatever, right? Stretching is always about pull harder, push harder, get yourself into that, get your body to get you into that position. So underlying that is the assumption that flexibility is all about how tight your muscle is. But actually flexibility is about your mind. The best proof of that is that if someone has fainted, if you've ever done first aid, if you try to lift an unconscious person,
it's dead weight.
It's dead weight. Yeah. Yes, they're completely flexible. You carry them this way, they flop that way. You carry them that way, they flop the other way. But the instant they regain consciousness, all the tightness comes back in. So flexibility is about the mind as well as the body. And what it is that essentially your mind, over time, as you grow and shaped by experiences, your mind develops this image of what your body can and cannot do.
Okay.
So stretch therapy technique works with your mind and your body to help you improve your flexibility and strength. But because you're actually working in the mind, really, it's also moving meditation. You know, when I see guys doing walking meditation and like trying so hard to get that feeling, I think, wow, you know, it's like I'm so lucky to have found this technique.
So what are the benefits to you in terms of how you think and your physical well-being and your strength? How does it translate in terms of tangible benefits?
Definitely in terms of physique, you know, really I think I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yeah?
Yeah, in terms of...
How? In what way?
In terms of, you know, you feel so good in terms of, I used to go for massage every week, seriously. I got to know my masseur so well that Deepawali I get invited to his house.
Because you're hurting all over your
you know,
joints,
especially
your neck was
stiff
painful.
neck, stiff shoulders, like, and then you used to blame it on corporate.
That's
memories.
what I'm having now.
I see. Okay, right.
Really stiff neck, really stiff back, and constantly in some kind of like ache or pain perennially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to go at least once a week, sometimes twice a week to the guy, you know. Okay. Yeah.
So you're saying stretch therapy will sort it out? Because I know that I can stretch some of my aches out for sure.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm not too disciplined about it.
Okay.
I know that I can stretch it out.
Yeah, because what happens is that because you're working on the mind as well, you also work on the underlying cause of the aches and pain. That a lot of these aches and pains are because over time you have started to move in inefficient ways. Okay, for example, let's put it this way, sitting upright actually, you know, normal tendency for most people nowadays is to slouch like that. You know?
Okay, the slouch.
Yeah, normal tendency, isn't it? But actually now I find this position, so there's a very interesting transition that, you know, I got to the point where this didn't feel right anymore. But when I sat upright, it didn't feel right either. Okay. It was not natural, it was not my natural, so to speak. But so essentially it's like reworking your mind, you know, reworking your perception of what is normal to what really is good for you.
So are there benefits in terms of how you think, positive attitudes to people, or rather to situations, or do you just feel more limber, more fit? What are the tangible benefits? How you know, have the aches and pains disappeared? Are you no longer in pain?
Okay, I wouldn't say no longer in pain because greatly reduced. Bear in mind, let's say, like I always tell my students, you work very hard to get to this point. You know, they come to you with all this like
all tight and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
right?
So and it's because of hard work, really.
Yeah.
You know, hard work in the corporate rat race.
Yeah. All the time spent in front of the computer.
Yeah, and computer, and you know, not being aware of all this tension you're holding. Yeah. So now you have to work hard to clear it. Okay. Yeah.
So typically, what kind of stuff would you do?
Exercises. Okay. So essentially, depends on the people. Okay. So we have regular group classes. So group classes every week we will have a team, because you can't work the whole body in one session. So like some weeks, for example, you work on upper body. Some weeks, for example, lower back. Other times, for example, knee issues, foot issues. So, you know, over time, as people come regularly, they should see some benefit. Okay,
and typically are the participants older people, or?
Yeah, for us,
they would be typically be older people, right?
Here, yes, but it's quite ironic because the kid, actually, the founder, he was actually an Olympic. He trained for Olympic weightlifting.
Okay.
Australian, and then he moved to middle distance running. So he's actually a very accomplished athlete, and in fact, he has he has rather been called in to help the Australian cricket team. He's been called in to help the London Ballet, London Ballet School.
Okay.
So he actually has, in Australia, they've gone to the point where it's arranged that essentially even elite athletes go there. Okay. For us right now, our clientele tends to be people who want to get started on exercise, but are afraid of exercise, so to speak, and they see us as a gentle move into exercise.
Okay, so it's kind of like Qigong, but not really Qigong, or Tai Chi, but not really Tai Chi.
In a sense, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Yeah, but so that's a start for us. But for me, really, you know, it's really, really phenomenal for improve. Like I found it helped my Tai Chi a lot as well. Yeah. And okay, well, the way I do Tai Chi also is a lot different from the Park Tai Chi. But that's another story.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you doing in terms of, so kind of last area before that you go. Okay. So what are you doing to keep yourself healthy in terms of diet? You told me about exercise, so stretch therapy is one of them. Tai Chi is another one. Do you keep yourself healthy by way of your nutrition? Are you a vegetarian, or do you watch what you eat? If so, how? Things like that.
Well, I'll say I'm flexitarian.
Flexitarian.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
But it's not. It was in that I prefer to eat vegetables nowadays, but I'm not strict about it.
Why is that?
Why is what?
Why do you avoid meat? Is it like an environmental thing? Is it like a humanitarian thing? Is it like a health thing? Or?
No, it's just really that over time, as you become more aware of your own body, again, everybody is different. So again, it's like different people have different diets, and that's perfectly fine. But like for me, for example, I used to love hamburgers. Yeah. Hard Rock Cafe when it first opened. When it first opened way back then, it was like, wow, I used to love it, man.
Yeah.
But now I find that when I eat a steak, I can feel it's very hard to digest. It takes the body a lot of work to digest a steak.
Because because your body is now ingrained and more in tune with the more fibrous and
no, it started because increased awareness of your own body sensations. Okay, because when you're doing our technique is like you become aware. Stretch therapy technique, for example, is becoming aware of your body sensations, where you feel the stretch, how you feel the stretch, how to relax the rest of your body. So like as you become more aware of your body, you realize that actually some foods are easier to digest than others. And I realized that actually after eating a steak, I feel very sluggish. So it wasn't like I said I'm not going to eat a steak anymore, but it was like...
So once in a while you still have a steak?
No, I just like, so first I ate a steak, hey, I like my burger, eat a burger. Then after you regret it, because you realize that because of your awareness increased so much, you realize that it's actually quite hard work and you feel a bit more sluggish than usual. Then over time, if you feel that it's not good for you, then you just stop eating it. And I don't see it as like a big change in the sense that, for example, I don't know, what was your favorite food as a little boy, for example?
I don't know, man. Pizzas, ice cream, whatever.
But you probably won't eat it anymore because it doesn't appeal to you anymore, right?
Once in a while. Like this,
But it's like our taste changed over time. Yeah. So, okay, how to keep myself healthy is really just... I'm not a vegetarian. I said I'm flexitarian. Yeah. Just by evolution over time. It was not as if I decided that this is healthy, so I'm going to do it. Yeah. But it's just because that, in terms of what I felt on my own body, that it was the natural thing to do. Yeah. So I'm still happily drinking whiskey.
Yeah, because I think every man kind of like needs a vice in their life, right?
Yeah.
How do you square that with your health, point of view?
No, I think that's the other thing about everybody, right? It's like they want this quick fix and they want all these latest fads about this diet is good for you, that diet is good for you. Yeah. I really think moderation. Yeah. And I think why there's so many problems nowadays is really that things that used to be treats in the past are available every day now. Yeah. I think maybe, in our parents' time, for example, meat was perhaps once a week.
A bit of a treat, right?
A bit of a treat, and then, like stories like my dad would say is that, in those days, like the drumstick, hey, look, one chicken, it's like family dinner, one whole chicken, right? Yeah. And the drumstick goes to grandpa and granddad. Yeah. But now you can just go to the supermarket and buy a whole bag full of chicken drumsticks. So really, it's moderation and being sensible.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you and I are kind of roughly the same age. We're trying to figure it out, right? Yeah. And it's an ongoing dilemma. Yeah. I haven't figured it out. I'm a long way from figuring it out.
It's a process.
It's a process.
I don't claim to have figured it out either.
Yeah, but I think our words and kind of like the collective experience will be interesting for someone who's in his early 30s, late 20s, and sometimes I tell myself the reason why I'm bringing this podcast is because when I was at 31 years old, I know mentors, I know guidance, I know like elder people to talk to, and I was looking for answers. I was looking for a way to invest some money more wisely. I was looking for some people to tell me about what career to do next. Should I go and join Bloomberg and not should I not join Bloomberg and go and continue with my little consultancy? I had no idea. And I guess in a way, why I'm doing DoMore is so that I can help the younger people make up their minds. Not necessarily provide a quick fix, but just through the experiences of people like you and me, and just have an indication as to what they should do next. And after the career move, it's about the family. It's about even retirement, what you should leave for your children, how you should advise them. And to be honest, at our age and our vintage, it's not about us anymore. It's about our children.
Yeah.
So it's been a huge pleasure chatting with you.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that,
My
man.
pleasure too.
Thank you, Lionel, for your
thanks, Lionel.
glorious Founders Reserve. Just made our tongues a lot looser than what we normally would be. So thank you. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And cheers to Lionel.
Cheers, Lionel.